Hi guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to the desktop for another retro RPG. And this week I would like to present this, Interface Magazine, Issue 1, Volume 2. Now this week I'd planned to do another video, which was actually going to be Cyberpunk based, but due to events in my life, as I've mentioned in other videos, my mother's hospitalized at the moment. I'm having to spend multiple hours traveling to and from the hospital, and obviously the visiting time at the hospital, checking she's all right. And basically I'm spending 3 or 4 hours a day traveling and visiting her, which is a massive loss of my free time, so I didn't have time to prepare the video that I'd wanted. So I decided to revisit this old series, because in previous videos, over the last 2.5 years, I've covered Interface Magazine Volume 1, Issues 1, 2, 3, and 4. The entire first year of it, which was 1991 releases. The 4 quarters of it. So we're on to Volume 2 now. Now this is one of only 2 issues released in Volume 2. Although there is another spin-off magazine which I'd like to cover at some point. So I've now got another couple of these to cover in the series. But I thought I'd return to them, because these are great little books which deserve some more attention. Anyway, this one is about medias. So, running the media game, profiles, job with an attitude, pirate media in 2020, facing consequences, and reviews. And it was a small magazine which gave you background stuff for Cyberpunk, it gave you Cyberpunk reviews, a letters page, that kind of stuff, as we'll see as we go through. But this one I especially like because medias to me have always been a core element of the Cyberpunk background. Because possibly my first exposure to Cyberpunk as a genre was Max Headroom. Now, for anybody who wasn't around in the late 80s, Max Headroom was a video disc jockey. He would introduce music videos on a TV show. But although it was an actor made up with a lot of latex on his face, the background story was he was a computer simulation. And they released this film to introduce him. Max Headroom 20 Minutes into the Future. It's about 40-45 minutes long, and it's a cyberpunk story. It's set in the near future, dystopian, lots of people living on the streets, very industrial setting, where a video journalist discovers that the channel he works for have created these things called blipverts. To stop people turning off their televisions during advertising breaks, they compress the adverts down into just a few seconds. But it's been discovered in people who are extremely lazy, like much of the population because unemployment's so high, this overstimulation of the brain can cause them to spontaneously combust and explode. But the TV station's covering it up. So he starts investigating into it, he breaks into his own TV station, he gets caught, tracked down and killed. But the TV station doesn't want to lose their top journalist, so they create the artificial simulation of him, Max Headroom. And they start using that, but he's got all the information about the crimes they're committing in it, and things don't go well for them. Plus, the journalist manages to survive. But to me, media's digging out the background facts and things of a cyberpunk setting are absolutely core to it, because that's how it was introduced. Anyway, we're almost 4 minutes in, and I haven't even looked at the back cover yet. People have a right to know. That's what I believe in. That's what I stand for. That's what I risk my life for. I'm a media. I get my facts and my feed, and I let nothing, not cops, not corpse, not whacked out, doped up boosters, keep me from getting the whole story. Edward Flash Leudowski. In this issue, media's in the spotlight in this issue. MediaTek, hardware for the media on the move. Talking hard, pirate media's in 2020. Just the facts, running a media-style campaign. Electric nightmares, brain dance and wireheading. Media profiles, an inside look of famous medias. Facing the consequences, making them pay for it. A job with an attitude, character role variations for 2020. And reviews of Alien 3, Man and Machine, and Lawnmower Man. Which aren't exactly a great selection of cyberpunk movies. Inside, we can see that it's produced by Prometheus Press, with permission from Altair Games. I think Prometheus Press was actually just an imprint of Altair, but I'm not exactly sure. And we go past the contents page straight into some cybernetics and equipment. So we've got things like an interviewer's camera, a camera which you put down on a desk and basically it scans the entire room to record everything that's going on. Portable editing lab, a remote surveillance cyber hand, a crawler, so a remote controlled hand you can send off scuttling through air vents to discover secrets. Live feed Cyberoptic option by Kuroshi Nikon Engineering. So instead of carrying a camera around, you just hook up your cyber eyes to this and you get the feed straight out of them. The journalist is the camera. Medusa 2000 camera, a big professional camera rig. And then on to just the facts, a section which goes through playing medias and gives you more variants. So we've got things like investigative reporters here, some suggestions for what skills and equipment they should have. War correspondents, tabloid journalists. It also goes into details for guidelines for running medias, how to make friends enemies being a media, law in the media, sensationalist journalists, a new skill, municipal communications. Then we've got some review of some cyberpunk media novels, Santiago, Memory Wire, The Feelies, The Artificial Kid, and Matrix Man. I think I've read The Artificial Kid, but none of the others sound really that familiar to me. Altered States, Electric Nightmares on wireheading, a system that they introduced in prisons to basically introduce feelings of euphoria to prisoners. But then they started getting released on the streets and they were addicted to it. So they went straight back to crime. But it goes through brain dances and all that as well, virtual reality, how to interface the mind to machine. Then we've got articles as if they're out of magazine, Up Close magazine, public relations profile. So we talk about Clarise and DeWinter, corporate media, going through all her background with some adventure hooks, how you could put her into your campaign. We've got Flash Leudowski, Up Close magazine article as well, an interview with him and some hooks as well as his stats. Argus, a Decker type one, an investigative media. His stats here and a few hooks. We've got some adverts here. Cthulhu Waits, The Unspeakable Oath, and Unplug for the next issue, where Interface and The Unspeakable Oath are creating a Call of Cthulhu Cyberpunk crossover. Which will be fun when we get to that one. Facing the consequences. So, consequences of what happens in adventure. That you can lose contacts and friends. You lose your humanity because you've seen such terrible things. You can lose resources. If your character starts off rich and they've got a big expensive car, or they're a decker and they've got a fantastic piece of software, they could lose it in an adventure. There might be extra costs to it than just taking some damage and healing back up. Pirate media, so goes through people who are operating outside the law to get the truth out. She looks almost like a samurai-wielding Indiana Jones reporter. I do like her Flash t-shirt. Mechanics getting caught, next generation, slashing into the industry, disadvantages of it. Then we've got a movie review, Pump Up the Volume, which actually happens to be my favourite movie. Most Triumphant, 5 out of 5. I wish I'd read through that more beforehand. Carrying on through the pirate media sections. Typical staffing requirements, different technologies. We've got an advert here for Night's Edge, which I've covered on the channel before. A source book introducing vampires into the world of darkness, into the world of cyberpunk. I'm thinking World of Darkness because vampires were so famous for them, but they bring them into the world of cyberpunk. A job with that attitude. So bringing in the idea that depending on your role, people will have different effects on different reactions to you. Their attitudes will change. If you're a cop going into a gang, it's not just down to your charisma. It's going to be penalized because people recognize you as a cop. Whereas a gang member or a musician going into a corporate meeting is going to be penalized because they look like a counterculture yob. There's some interesting ideas in there. We've got a review of Alien 3, which gets 2 stars, not doing well. Man and Machine, which only gets 1. And the Lawnmower Man, which only gets 2. Another advert for the Complete Strategist, Cyberpunk Headquarters. some pages of readers' letters, some more adverts, obviously a 40k and Gundam. The anniversary issue of Interface, because it was 1 year since the first one, and the editor's introduction about it. A review of Night's Edge, which is quite a negative review. They didn't like it because they didn't think it was horror. But really is the vampire trend which was coming out, which Night's Edge was cashing in on, actually anything about horror? Vampire the Masquerade isn't really horror as traditional horror is, any more than the Twilight movies are horror, or Vampire Diaries, or True Blood. We've got some analysis forms here, feedback, so you can tell them what you liked, and then a subscription, which would pretty much be wasted because there was only one more issue to get. And that is Interface magazine. It's really handy to have. There's lots of nice stuff in there. And at the time when it was coming out, it was nice to hear about books and movies which you could watch to get the feeling for a cyberpunk background. Because obviously this is 1992. So while the internet did exist, most of us weren't using it. So we were relying on magazines like this one and other sources to really find out what was out there. Anyway, I think I've waffled on for quite long enough as usual, so thank you very, very much for watching. But most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.